Hello everyone and welcome back to Crypto Atlas. In today's episode we will be talking about Bitcoin, Orchid, as well as Chainlink. So if you guys are new to the channel, welcome. It is nice to meet you. Feel free to subscribe, and all of you guys that are returning back to the channel here, so good to see you guys again. If you guys haven't yet, don't forget to click that little bell notification so you know when we have a new video that goes up. I also do some streaming on this channel. Right now we're trying to push for those 4,000 watch hours on this channel, so if you guys want to hang out sometime when we do go live, talk about some crypto stuff, would love to hear any of your guys' thoughts, which you can also leave in the comments down below. So for this video, let's try to get to 50 likes, and let's also get right into the actual information here. First thing, Bitcoin. We see this big drop off that took place, right? On whoops, not looking back there. Sorry, I thought it was on the 4-hourly chart there for a second. On the daily, now if we hop over to the 4-hourly, you can see that there was a pretty big drop off that took place here a couple hours ago. And if we go back on the hourly, you see this massive volume, and there was a big price, right? So what caused that? Largely indicated it's actually because of what happened with OkEx. This is an exchange primarily based with the Chinese market, and the price of Bitcoin dropped 3% in just 30 minutes. I actually saw this happening live last night. I was stepping away to go and have some dinner, and lo and behold, as I'm walking away from the computer, I see it just cascading down. I couldn't believe it. Could have been way worse, but yeah, it's interesting what was causing it. And so we scroll down here. One of our private key holders is currently cooperating with the Public Security Bureau, and investigations were required. We have been out of touch with the concerned private key holder. As such, the associated authorization could not be completed. Pursuant to 8.1 service change and interruption of the terms of service, OkEx may change the service and or may also interrupt, suspend, or terminate the service at any time with or without prior notice. So yeah, because something came up with the Security Bureau, there's one individual apparently, which a lot of people are really surprised about, that has the access to all the private keys on the exchange, and nothing can really take place without that one individual being present. So all operations at OkEx except digital assets / cryptocurrency withdrawals remain unaffected. All your funds and assets are safe. The investigation concerns a certain private key holder's personal issue only. Further announcements will be made. OkEx's first stated withdrawal will be suspended 15 p.m. but quickly changed to 11 a.m. Rumor has it that over 800 accounts in certain exchanges are involved with cross-border money laundering. That one person sits in China holding the keys to an entire offshore cryptocurrency exchange is probably the most surprising thing about this industry. I learned this year that customers don't demand transparency about key management comes in at a close second, though. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Something else that's really interesting is Tether. Now, if you guys don't know what Tether is the direct correlated value of the dollar. So it's a stable coin, right? Tether's volume hits $600 billion as it attempts to take on Bitcoin as crypto's benchmark. You can see over here $600 billion. That's crazy. But to be a little bit more specific, this is again on the keyword cumulative. It should be noted, however, that there is a cumulative figure and not the daily transactional volume, which is closer to $35 billion. However, when you think about it, more and more Tether that's going out there, the potential of Tether being used to buy cryptocurrencies, that's essentially a big reason why people go and get Tether, is because some of these cryptocurrencies, you don't have the option to just straight up buy it with money out of your bank account. You have to go buy Tether with your bank account and then use the Tether to go out and buy this. It's kind of a bizarre metric system to me, but it has its reasons. Anyways, so if that means that there's a whole bunch of money that's off on the side on play, just kind of waiting to happen, right? When things start to move, a lot of that money that hasn't been decided to do anything with it yet, where do you think it's going to go? More than likely, it's going to go into the market and continue to pump it even harder. So when it decides to push, it could push tremendously so. I mean, a lot of people were surprised with $20,000. Let me know in the comments down below if within the next 1 year Bitcoin was to move to a specific price, where would you be the most surprised? within 1 year from today on October 16th. So by the end of October 16th next year, Bitcoin went all the way up to a certain price. What would you guys say? Take a look over here on Twitter, Plan B. He is very famously known because he did the stock to flow model. A lot of people reference it. I like the stock to flow model as well. This is just an example of it, and it's posted from him on his Twitter account. But he asked a very valid question. He said, why does Bitcoin price not go up with all this institutional buying? Who is selling Bitcoin price is exactly where it should be. Who is selling? End question. Bitcoin price is exactly where it should be, holding firm above $10,000, waiting for that one moment, asymmetrical returns, patience, right? So we're got that sideways moving action. Look at that. Now we're seeing some green candles start to take place on Bitcoin. We'll be seeing that here in just a second here. So it's already having that bit of recovery from Bybit. You see Binance Futures, Deribit, and everything. By the way, I do want to make a little side note here. As far as for OkEx goes, when you talk about like the derivative exchanges, it's number 2. But this is actually according to CoinMarketCap, which CoinMarketCap was recently bought by Binance. It seems a little bit biased that Binance is listed as number 1 here, yet OkEx is number 2. Although, you know what, now that I think about it, maybe this just did an update. Nope, they're still showing Binance as number 1, which is interesting. You go to CoinGecko, and CoinGecko shows OkEx as number 1 and Binance number 2. So slightly different perspectives. Anyways, safe to assume OkEx and Binance are both very close to one another. And yeah, so the fact that it had that big kind of halting situation and it dropped about $300, not surprising. The fact that it didn't drop even more, that's kind of surprising. But, you know, a lot of things are leading to the side suggesting that the price is about to explode. So the fact that we have only a $300 pullback, hopefully that's a really good sign that like those really bad moments we're having right now, it's so insignificant in comparison to what is about to happen that it might just be kind of pulling back that rubber band even harder, getting ready to launch. I mean, again, everyone I'm sure is so hopeful, except for the people that are shorting. If you're shorting stuff in crypto, that is a dangerous game, my friend. That is really, really dangerous. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and close out with that, and we'll take a look more at the charts here in just a second. The S&P 500, a lot of correlation between the stock market and the cryptocurrency market, right? So when we look at the S&P 500, you can see right here that it is up just slightly on the daily, just hit $3,500, 0.49%. That's as of the moment when I'm doing this, which is 9:17 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other stocks and see how they're doing. NASDAQ, for example, is up 0.29%. We got also the Dow Jones. Dow Jones is also up for the daily 0.84% as of the time of this video when I'm actually recording it. And again, anything can happen throughout the course of a day. Apple stock is slightly down. So not everything's on the up and up, but Apple stock is slightly down. Tesla, the stonk. Oh, I thought it was going to be up too. Okay, well, Tesla stock is actually just slightly down as well. Very interesting. Now to go into the actual TA, we're going to start with Bitcoin, then we'll go into Orchid, and then we're going to take a look at Chainlink. Again, guys, if you're new to the channel and you are enjoying this content, please don't forget to hit subscribe and hit that bell notification, guys, and let's see if we can get to 50 likes. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate all of you guys being here. And taking a look on the daily chart here, we have had what indicates for Bitcoin is an ascending channel. So there's not much definitively over the long scale period of this period right here, looking at it to see if it's going to go up or down. We just kind of have to eyeball it a little bit and wait till it starts to shift either this level of resistance or the level of support to more accurately define where the next suggested pattern is going to be. That's looking at it on the daily perspective when we go through this entire phase, right? So we're hitting the top, we're coming down to the bottom, we hit the top here, down to the bottom, kind of came to the median zone, came back to the bottom, went up to the top, now we're at the median zone, starting to show a little bit of some signs of recovery, but that's the daily. We go take a look at the 4-hourly chart. We can zoom in here a little bit more, and we have a descending wedge pattern, which is actually a good sign. That's a good sign of a potential reversal and the price actually going up. So if this does end up having a fruition moment and pushing itself through, then we might end up seeing some levels pushing up right around. Once again, it's funny when you do these TA things, and I didn't plan this out. I set up the descending wedge pattern so that we could do the video, but I didn't do the actual price projection moment. So it's funny, I think, when you set it up and it nears or it's right on previous markers that you had set up. So at this $11,800 range, it looks like it could potentially retest that zone. So that's actually some really good positive perspective view on this, although it could technically end up potentially pulling down. But with it being a descending wedge pattern, it's much more likely that it's going to go up than it to actually go down. Also on the daily, something else to take note of is that it started to push down and get really close to touching the 21 EMA here, but it didn't. In fact, there's still a pretty wide little gap that's taking place there, and it's had a bit of a recovery. So the fact that it's above the 21 EMA, I think that's really good news. The RSI for the 4 hourly is in the median zone. We're still waiting on some movement there. Looking at the daily, I know I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between these. Daily, the RSI is just almost to the point of being overbought, but it's had a little bit of retracement back. And more importantly is if you go ahead and take a look here at the volume that's taking place, the volume is steadily gone down. And even with this major move that took place with the OkEx news, well, guess what? We didn't see a super massive volume for the day. So, some bad news, sure, but a lot of volume hasn't been taking place. I think a lot of people are kind of on the sidelines right now, and they're just waiting to see what's going to happen with this election, because depending on who's going to be the next leader of the United States of America could more accurately define what's going to happen with money and the markets in general. So yeah, kind of a waiting game for the next couple weeks. We might see some major movement take place beforehand, especially if some other major news comes out. But I would say realistically, if we were to flatline again, a big suggestive sign is this exactly what we're looking at. It's an upcoming election. So on the 4 hourly chart right here, do have a potential for the upswing moving up there. You see we've had a series of green candles with large pushes up, but then that OkEx news that kind of just pulled it back down. So that was a bit unexpected, and that's what happens in this market, right? Like, no one can predict that OkEx is going to just halt all of their withdrawals, because all of your technical analysis, you can say, hey, this looks like it's going to be doing really good. There's everything suggesting it's going to be really good. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, you can't withdraw any of your money. It's kind of a big deal. And that's something that, even though the TA suggests that, we're talking about one of the biggest exchanges out there in the world that's preventing you from being able to withdraw, that obviously is going to have an impact. So I wouldn't blame anybody, myself or any of these other cryptocurrency YouTubers. If you're watching these kinds of videos, it is really important to understand that when you do this stuff, it's all about probability. It's based on what's going on in the patterns as of the moment. The patterns are not going to be guaranteed situations. It's situations where it's like, hey, you have a 60% chance based on this pattern that it's going to go this way, as compared to a 40% chance of it going downwards. Vice versa, and some of the percentages change. Some are stronger indicators than others. So it's all just those basic fundamentals, right? But even though you got a 10% chance of something happening, remember, that means it can still technically happen. So you got to prepare yourself for either direction and then where you go into buy-in and all that other stuff, okay? Quick side note, not a financial advisor. But yeah, I do appreciate all of you guys being here. If for some reason this was to break just hypothetically downwards, given this level that was established here, we might end up seeing it push back down to the levels of support right around the $10,800 range. This is, again, on the TA, strongly suggesting the reversal pattern actually having a push up. So I would be keeping a little bit more an eye on that side. But just kind of prepare yourselves. And we got that baseline level of support that's being established right around at the $11,200 range, which is more or less within that CME futures gap, which a lot of people say that has to be filled, and it's kind of dipped into that space over the course of the previous day. So is it technically filled? It's a matter of perspective, but it's pretty much been filled on that one. Now taking a look over on Orchid. Orchid on the daily. Orchid on the daily has been continuously going down, still filling within this giant wedge pattern. I mean, this massive wedge pattern right here. So that isn't necessarily great news, especially for the holders. I'm one of those holders and would love to see this flip and start pushing back up. I mean, you are looking at very low price points in comparison to what we've had over the last couple weeks. So if you were looking to try and get in on something like this could be a really good opportunity. The way I'm looking at it is a key level of support that's going to be established is going to be right around like a 20 cent range. Yeah, it's right around in this region right here. Right around 20 cent range. I feel that because we had so much time and this was trying to break above, a lot of people are going to be trying to protect that zone and keeping it from going any lower. So if this was to drop any lower, I'd say a critical level of support is going to be right around at the 20 cent range. As long as that is defended, it has a chance to bounce back up. I'm sure, I'm not sure, but it is very strongly suggested that Orchid, aka OXT, is going to have some more news here in the next fourth quarter, which is probably going to be bullish. Things suggested possibly like the Windows full integration compatibility that's already been in the works. The idea of the nano payments in the market system. I don't know if we'll get that in the fourth quarter, but that's supposed to be some really good possible news as well if they actually end up going and doing something like that, which I wouldn't be surprised if they do. 4-hourly chart, we take a look at something like this and just kind of zooming in on that a little bit more. You can actually see that we had this channel that was taking place, this descending channel, and it did start to break above. It pulled back, it broke above, it pulled back, and it's just kind of playing this big game. It's like this big mental game. You start to think that it's doing fine, and then it wants to go further down. And then it goes further down and further down. And then you think that, okay, now it's starting to recover a little bit, and then it goes further down. But at the same time, too, a lot of the market's been having some big impacts. And a lot of these major dips that took place is because something major also happened with Bitcoin and Ethereum and all the other cryptocurrencies. And although Bitcoin has had a bit of a good rally back up, it didn't show a super strong push with Orchid as well. Orchid did have some recovery that took place and then steadily had some drop-offs as everything kind of flatlined. There wasn't a lot of activity that's taking place. Bitcoin was able to kind of stabilize itself, but Orchid overall was seeing a slight decline, right? So that's why we've seen a lot of this movement down on this side. You also take into account that there's a lot of circulating supply for Orchid, and there's more that's being produced out based on its intervals. Its total supply has not been met yet. So, that's something else to take into mind as well. However, when we take a look at this descending channel, because it's not really a definitive based chart, since it's a channel, right? There's not a lot that we can really look at until it defines itself more. The good news is that if we actually consider the fact that we had a couple reference points here on the 4-hourly, I can move this top section out a little bit, and it actually changes from a descending channel. Now it's actually more of a descending wedge-based pattern, which means that we have a potential reversal, right? So that is actually good news. And if we take a look over here, we could see a potential rise up taking place from the absolute high over here. Just potentially we could see it having a rise, I would say more realistically, pulling back into the channel zone, which would make a lot of sense, and that would be back around the 26-cent range, about a 2-cent increase from where it's at right now. For a lot of people, a 2-cent range, especially on something like this that's been pretty volatile, that could be a range where people go to take profits too. So it would have to contest that zone before it actually breaks out further. And that's just my opinion though. A lot of this stuff is my own opinion. We're just looking at the charts and suggesting where it could end up having these levels go. If you follow the continuous pattern down, honestly, it could keep just going down. It could keep going back down to the levels that I was talking about, right around 20 cents. That's a really key level to try and keep an eye out for here. Another major zone is going to be right around 21 cents. We take a look, pull back right down here. You can see levels that was trying to break above that level of resistance, and then it bounced back down. So the more immediate future, if it drops down to 21 cents, keep an eye on that. If it breaks even further down, 20 cents, those are two major levels. And then let's go take a look over at Chainlink. And Chainlink on the daily, it has shown itself as a descending wedge-based pattern. With this descending wedge-based pattern, same thing. We have potential for the upswing to take place, and this is a little bit more of a realistic base pattern because we just have a little bit of the irregularities that took place over there. So if we pull that across, we might end up seeing a breakout leading up to around $16.71 on a good high note, and with it having a further continuation down following this level of support that's been kind of established here. On a daily, let's just say if it had a massive plunge down, you'd be looking right around $3.37. But actually looking at it a little bit more historically here, which I didn't really have this part pulled up, but that's not a big deal. You can actually see some levels that are taking place right across the top here. Bounces off 1, 2, 3 major instances, almost a fourth level right there until it's eventually broken. And with that level of support that's being established, as of the moment, since we were technically above it, that is going to be at approximately a $5 level. The chances of it dropping down that low, not that great, but is it possible? Yes. I mean, we've seen 75% retracements on a lot of other cryptocurrencies here recently. Going and looking at this on the 4-hourly chart, we can zoom in a bit more, and you also see a descending wedge-based pattern. And again, so this is another good potential possibility of a climb back up. And on that 4-hourly, if we go ahead and take a look right here, we can go ahead and move this over, and this would break above the level of resistance, which would be great news, and that would actually lead that up to a price point of about $11.71. Okay, so that is going to go ahead and do it for today's video, guys. Let me know if you enjoyed this format. I'm trying to focus a little bit more on the TA element for some of these cryptocurrencies for you guys. I did throw in some of the nuggets of some of the news that's going on, but yeah, I would really love your guys' feedback. All the comments are appreciated. And once again, finally, just if you guys haven't subscribed and you enjoyed this content, please don't forget to subscribe. Click the little bell notification. And if you haven't yet, please hit that thumbs up. Let's try to get to 50 likes. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next episode.